tell you what I want to do today. This is a political rally. Everybody's excited. And I'm a little out of practice. I'm a little rusty. But I would like it if, at least in the beginning, you just not only talk to me and not give a real political speech. Since I left the White House, my life is very different now. I went out and tried to continue to make a difference in the areas that I cared about when I was president, when I thought I could still make a difference. And I have a very different life now. I have an office in Harlem, New York City, and in America, I work on trying to help get 28 million people to get a regular check but don't have a bank account, get them in a regular banking system, so they have to spend $1,800 a year on enormous interest and fees in the alternative financial system. I try to help people sign up for the earned income tax credit. I try to make sure all students are low income to know what their scholarship and loan options were all over America. I've worked on Katrina with former President Bush, and I'm still working in New Orleans to try to help rebuild that city. So I do a lot of those kinds of things. And my major initiative is fighting against the rising tide of childhood obesity and the rising rates of diabetes among our young children, because we have to turn that around, or we're going to have a terrible problem in this country. And then around the world, I've got to sell 8 drugs, the least expensive, high-quality drugs in the world. In 71 countries. I have healthcare projects in 25 countries. I work on the tsunami relief in South Asia. I've got development projects in Africa. I have climate change projects in 40 cities on 5 continents. I see the world and America from the top and the bottom. I raise money for the richest Americans to fund my foundation work, and I walk the streets in Harlem with some of the people having the toughest time. And here's what I want you to know. A couple of weeks ago, Hillary and I celebrated our 32nd wedding anniversary. And what I want you to know is, if we were not married and she asked me to be here, I'd be here. I'd be here today for her, having nothing to do with the fact that we spent the last 32 years together. And I want to tell you why. It isn't because I dislike the other candidates. I love being a Democrat in this election because I like them all. If you want me to say something bad about them, you can leave now, because I don't have anything bad to say about anybody in this room. I read Senator Edwards' healthcare plan with great interest. I read Senator Obama's climate change plan with great interest. Governor Richardson had 2 positions in my cabinet. Senators Biden and Dodd were 2 of my closest allies and friends the whole time I was president, even going back before. I like them all. So I want you to know why I strongly feel that Hillary should be the nominee of our party and the next president. I will be a voter next year for 40 years. It's true. And it's worse, because you had to be 21 to vote when I became president. And all that time, I really believe that she's the best qualified, best suited, non-incumbent I have ever had a chance to vote for president in 40 long years. This country has some big challenges. The world has some big challenges. But they all boil down, in my view, to 3. One is persistent inequality in income, education, and health care. Look at America. We've had 6 years of economic growth, but median wages, the ones in the middle, have actually gone down by $1,000. The new jobs created in this decade pay about 20% less than the jobs that have been lost. And we've had the most anemic job creation record in any economic recovery in decades. So we have income inequality. Look at the inequality in education. Both not just in terms of funding, but in terms of opportunities. If you rank in the top 25% of your high school class, but your family's income is in the bottom 25%, you don't have as good a chance of getting into a 4-year college and graduating on time as if you rank in the bottom 25% of your high school class, but the top 25% of income. And that is not right. It's unequal, it's wrong, and it's bad for America. And look at healthcare. Healthcare premiums have gone up 90% since I left office. 90%, 6.5 times average wages. We've got an economic recovery, and there are 4% more working families without health insurance than there were when we were in the last recession in 2001. Second big problem is instability, unsustainability because of climate change and the depletion of resources, land, water, tree cover. Great biologist Neil Wilson tells us, I can say this on this college campus, that we are losing plant and animal species at the most rapid rate in the 150,000-year history of this planet, of human beings on this planet. And by the way, the only thing we can do about the population is consistent with our moral values is to put every girl in the world in school and give every young woman a chance to be in the workforce and every young woman in the world. If you do that, well, you know what happens when that happens. People delay the age of marriage and they delay the age of childbearing and they have fewer children in their families. But the main point is, the rest of the world is not going to be able to get rich, and we're not going to be able to stay rich in the way we and the Europeans and Japanese did because of climate change. I'm so proud that Al Gore finally won the Nobel Prize. But that's a big problem, since if you want to have people with higher incomes and more education and better health care, and you've got this energy climate change thing hanging out there, it's a problem. And the third big problem we have are identity conflicts. That's what all this terrorism is, isn't it? That's what Al-Qaeda is. That's what the fighting between the Sunni and the Shia in Iraq is. That's what the fighting between the Kurds and the Turks is. That's what the long battle between the Israelis and the Palestinians is. That's what the bloody fights in Sri Lanka between the Hindus and the Buddhists, which claim twice as many lives as the Middle East violence. It's all about identity. Whenever people believe their differences are more important than their common humanity, and their differences are so profound they can kill each other over them, they are poor, divided, distracted, and frustrated. Whenever they start to move away from that, they do better. Witness the history of the American South. Right? All we got to do is look at our own history. But if you look at all these problems that are all about identity, you live in this independent world, we're all bumping up against one another. We can't get away from each other, which means a few people with a bad attitude can do a whole lot of damage. You remember not very long ago, a few months ago, when those people, those terrorists in Britain were trying to put an explosive chemical in a baby bottle and disguise it as infant formula? You remember that? And get on a plane and blow up the plane. Now, how many of you felt a little tingle come up and down your spine when you read that? I did, not just because of me, but because my daughter, who's grown now, has to travel on and fly for work. So I don't think it's likely that this new century will claim as many lives of political violence as World War II, World War I, the Holocaust, the purges of the Soviet Union, the Chinese Cultural Revolution, all the African wars, Korea, Vietnam, Cambodia. I'm already aware of 100 million, I've left a lot of stuff out. We're going to go some to kill as many people in the 21st century as that in politics and 20th century. So here's why I think in order to be the best president, number one, the next president has got to restore America's standing in the world and do it in a hurry. She went to 83 countries when I was president. She was the face of America in Africa and Asia and lots of other places in my first term. She has continued to work around the world on climate change and other issues. There was recently a poll done by a Canadian firm polling all the European countries in Canada with all the Democratic and Republican candidates, 16 of them. They just, all people said, who you for? When you got rid of the undecided, she had a majority in every single country whole. We don't have any Martin Farrer. We need to get the show on the road to get America up to business again and send us in the politics and the economic business again. Number two, we have to rebuild a badly strained American military. We have exhausted the Army and the Marine Corps and the Guard and Reserves for months and months. Naval personnel, both reservists and regular Navy personnel, have been training in infantry warfare. Almost no Americans know this, but I do. I ask these Navy people all the time, what are you doing? I asked a young officer in California the other day to help me for him. I said, what are you doing for training? He was howling later. He said, you know, don't you? I said, what are you doing? He said, target practice. He said, they're calling this an army now. Hillary's the only member of the Armed Services Committee running for president. When the Republicans were in the majority, the Pentagon asked her to be the only senator of either party to serve on the Commission to Modernize the Military for the 21st century. This is a big deal. People don't talk about it very much. The military is a precious institution of America. People have no idea how valuable it is to us for 1,000 different things, and how important it is that they've done everything they've asked to do, and they did everything they were asked to do in Iraq. But we cannot continue to string out deployments that are longer than they were in World War II. We cannot do it. The third reason I would be for it, she knows more about healthcare than anybody else, and she's got a good plan to do something about it. And it's a plan that will generate support in both parties. The fourth thing is, when I was governor for 12 years in Arkansas, she was in charge of rewriting our school reform program. And when I ran for president in 1992, there was a national survey that showed, I wish you were Governor Riley were here today, it showed in the 1980s the two states making the most progress in their schools were South Carolina and Arkansas. She did that, and we haven't been able to do. That we can't pass energy reform. And she's given already 2 speeches, going to give another one in about a week, with a detailed plan to create millions of jobs out of clean energy. We can't pass that or health care without some Republican votes in the Senate. And a lot of people don't know this. Nobody knew it when I was president, so I'm going to tell you the picture. You can pass anything with a majority vote in the House of Representatives. You can only pass a budget with a majority vote in the Senate. If there are 41 Republicans filibuster, they can beat anything else. Anything but a budget. So, the fact that she has passed a lot of legislation and done a lot of work with Republicans in the Senate and proved that she can get along with them, work with them, and pass things together, this is important. If you want health care reform and you want to do something about climate change, you got to have some Republican votes, otherwise we'll get filibustered. She and Senator Graham from South Carolina, for example, sponsored legislation to give National Guardsmen and reservists who were in combat theater the same access to health care that regular personnel did. For some reason, the administration opposed that. They said we couldn't afford it. They said, look, if you send them to fight and get wounded, they are entitled to the same health care that regular personnel are.